Hi everyone, and welcome again to my audiovisual channel. My name is Gabriela Handal, and I'm a draftsman and also the host of this show, A Conversation About Art. During each episode, I look for the meaning of art and beauty through conversations with colleagues in different artistic fields. Today, I bring you episode 73, which is crazy, and I will talk with artist Luis Colan. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by liking and sharing this video and also by subscribing to my audiovisual channel. These are all immediate and at no additional cost to you. If you'd like to show your support with money, it's also very welcome and appreciated. You can do so by purchasing my drawings directly from my website, which is gabrielahandal.com, one word, first name, last name. You can purchase crafts I make from eBay, you can buy prints of my drawings, or you can leave me a tip. Thank you for your time and attention in watching this episode, and do leave a comment so I know you were here. I hope you enjoy it. All right. Luis Colan, welcome to A Conversation About Art. You are episode 73. Please tell our future listeners and viewers who you are and what you do.
Hello, I'm Luis Colan, and I'm an artist living in New York, Astoria, Queens. And I've been here for almost 20 years pursuing my painting art career. I started painting and drawing when I was a very small child in Peru, and I never gave it up. And I went on to go to art school and college. And ever since then, after graduating, I moved to New York, just pursuing that dream.
Okay, lovely. So you said that you started when you were very young, and then you kind of never like deviated, kind of?
I never really gave it up. No, it was something that I did pretty much every day. I was, and still am, actually a loner somewhat. Even though some of my friends may say that I'm very outgoing, I'm one of those like introvert extroverts. So when I need to be in a social setting, yeah, I can be really outgoing, but I like to keep to myself a lot. So growing up, that was kind of like how, I came about. And also my mom was very protective of me and didn't really let me out much. So
You're an only child?
no, I'm the youngest of two, but
I see.
My older sister, she's, I think, 5 years older than me. At that point, when I was growing up, she was already like making her friends and had her own life in a way at that early age. And I was just kind of like, they didn't really want me around. So I just stayed home, and it was just constantly drawing. If it wasn't playing with something, I was always drawing and depicting whatever was around me. It was always anything that I saw would get drawn or sketched.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want you to go into more detail about your path or your journey with drawing and then becoming an artist. So yeah. All right, give me a second, because I want to know specific things. Why, or I mean, is the reason for which you didn't deviate just because you generally were just hanging out alone and just drawing? And then wait, I have more questions. And then when you decided to study it,
yeah,
did your parents tell you anything? Because I mean, did you study in Peru?
I moved here when I was really young. I was 10 years old, so I study art here in States.
Okay, yeah, okay. So then in that case, when you were here and you were wanting to study with your parents, I presume, were they telling you like, oh my God, what are you going to do for money? Like, this stigma of art, and you're going to starve and this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I also want to know, and like in between this, from a child who just has fun drawing to an artist, when did you feel comfortable calling yourself an artist? Like, when did you feel that you earned?
Yeah.
So yes, all of these questions, and I asked them all in a row because I didn't want to forget.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine, because it does make sense, because that's the journey, as you say. Like, when I was a child, it was something that I did and it came natural to me. And very early on, I was aware that the way that I saw things was very different than everyone else. Like, I can give you an example. I was actually thinking about this week. When I was very little, and I'm thinking back to the time when I was in first grade, they would have us draw things, and I remember kids my age drawing cars, right? And they would just draw a rectangle, a box, and then two circles at the very edge of those two
Mm-hmm,
circles of
mm-hmm.
that rectangle. I actually drew it very differently. I would draw a curved sort of thing because the hood of a car can be a little bit curved on the
Sure.
top, and the back can be too, depending on the car. And then going into the window, it can be a little bit more. So I drew more curved lines, and then when it comes to putting the wheels and the tires, there is a space, right? That then there's a circle goes inside
Yeah.
a semicircle, and I drew it that way
Mm-hmm,
at first grade. So I always was frustrated at that point. I'm like, why can't people see what I see?
mm-hmm,
And thinking about it now, I'm like, wow, I do see things very differently than everyone else, I guess.
mm-hmm.
And so drawing was just not only a pastime, but it very early on, it was something that it was a part of me, and I just needed something to let out whatever it is that I needed to let out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that kept going through all my years after moving to the States, even more so because then as an immigrant kid and not being able to communicate and not knowing the language, you feel even more alone. And so then I spend even more time drawing and painting at home. And art supplies was a thing that mostly my mom, my parents, never really denied me.
Mm-hmm.
They were very happy to buy me crayons, sketch pads, pencils, whatever it is that I wanted, because they thought that it was something constructive, that I was doing something, constructive with my time. They wouldn't buy me toys, they wouldn't buy me clothes. That was always a no. But if it was art supplies, they were okay with spending a little bit of extra money that they had for that. So it allowed me to keep going. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I finally was able to take a proper art class. And the art teacher saw that I had some sort of talent, and she took me under her wing. And I started getting private sessions with her in school during my free time. And she started teaching me oil painting. And I remember when I first bought my first few tubes of oil paint, and the first time that I opened the tubes of oil paint, it was that smell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it was, but it was something about that smell that I just got triggered. And it was like, oh my God, this is what I need.
Mm.
I didn't know exactly what that was that I needed, but I needed to have that in my life at that point. And in junior year of high school, I think it was junior year of high school, is when I said I'm a painter.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it wasn't something that I wanted to pursue.
What age is junior year?
Junior year, I think it's, let me see, if I graduated at 18, I think junior year is between the ages of 16 and 17.
Yeah, okay.
Um, so at that point, I knew that painting was going to be a part of my life. Whether if it was a career choice or not, something that I was going to pursue, I didn't really know. And I wasn't sure about either, because you do hear about families wanting to push their kids to become doctors and architects.
Sure.
The big ones that everybody hopes that your kid will be in and make a living and be quote unquote, well off or wealthy or whatever. Especially for immigrant families, that's what they sacrifice their lives for, and they come here for you to be better.
Yeah.
Quote unquote better is getting one of these careers.
I mean, better than the life that the parents than the parents people that they had. They just want
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, they want you to be comfortable. They want you to know that you're not, that you're not going to suffer financially or anything like that.
Right.
But so I continued on through high school, just painting more. And then it was this teacher who kept pushing me, and she said, you're going to go this summer. I want you to go to an art camp. I had never left my family ever. It was, it's funny because like Latin families, Hispanic families, especially those who are brand new to this country, like you're supposed to always be together and you never leave that little nucleus. And like for me at that age to leave for a summer to an art camp in some college, and even though it was still within the state, it was still a few towns over, and that was something that they they never do. And I had to like convince them in a way, and they agreed, and I was able to get a scholarship, and I spent a month at Wesleyan University. They host a program, and I don't know if it's still going on till this day. It was called CCY, which means Center for Creative Youth. And so that was the first time when I was exposed to other painters, uh, people who are interested in writing, people who are interested in music and dance and theater. Like all the arts were represented in this summer program, and it was the most liberating experience of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started getting more into proper art training, and they touched upon art history and things, and that's when it really woke me up, and I was like, okay, maybe this is something that I can pursue. I still wasn't 100% sure about it though. And then after I came back from that art program, this art teacher in high school just kind of said, I think you need to go to art school. And at that point, I didn't have any other interest. I didn't want to be said doctor, lawyer, architect. I didn't have any interest. I hated reading, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life after I graduate high school. I don't see an actual future. And when she said you should go to art school, my reaction was, okay, I'll do it. I still wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on to apply to the Hartford Art School, University of Hartford, still in Connecticut, where I grew up in Hartford. And they have a really good program, and they have a long history actually of art, and they have a certain pedigree, I guess. And I was lucky that it was near where I grew up. And so I applied, I went to school, and I went through the first year of foundations, which I kind of hated. And it wasn't until I think the spring semester of my sophomore year that I realized that this is my life. And that's when the switch happened, when I started going into abstract painting. And that's when painting really took over my life, and I became so obsessed. And finding out about the art scene in New York in the 50s, like the abstract expressionists and everything that came after them. And I'm like, that's where I need to be. I need to be there where everything happened. And even though these people no longer live or they're no longer there, that's where history happened. And I want to be part of that history. And that's what happened after graduating college in 2004. That's when I moved to New York. And I've been here ever since pursuing this.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, the thing that you said about families, like that cultural thing, reminded me of my grandmother, because I have a lot of family on my dad's side in Bolivia. So sometimes my brother and I would go with my grandmother to Bolivia, or sometimes it was just me. And then, I had little girl cousins, and they would be like, hey, do you want to sleep over and stuff? And I was like, okay. And then my grandma would be like, no, you're not sleeping over.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that a little bit. Even though it's family, she was still like, no.
Yeah.
And like in Panama, which is where I'm from, the town that I lived in, there were other girls, and they will be like, you want to have a sleepover and stuff? And my mom will be like, no, you're not. But, I kind of think that
it's that
I think it is that in part, but because your parents are being protective and stuff, they want to take care of you. But it's like, even if it's the same town, it's if they're not looking at you, how are they going to know that you're okay? And I also sometimes think that, like, in the case of the girls in the town, and well, maybe even of the little cousins in Bolivia that I was just saying, I feel like my mom and my grandmother had like this feminine instinct thing where they were like, I don't like those girls.
Yeah.
Because there's like something about them, like they're like up to mischief and stuff. And so there's that protective thing. But anyway,
there's a big difference between like American kids. They grow up with a lot more freedom. Parents allowed them to like spend the night at so-and-so's house or whatever. And that's something that never really happened with us. I mean, my mom always says like, why do you need to go spend the night over there? You have a bed here. You have food here. You have everything here. Why do you need to go? Like it's a cultural thing. So trying to get them, to push them out of their comfort by me like saying, hey, I'm going away this summer for this art camp. It was pretty major actually. and they
Sure,
allow.
especially if you'd never left home before. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting that at the same time, I mean, there's plenty of people in Panama, friends that I had then when I grew up, who slept in each other's houses. It's like if you had people that lived, in like a town that had houses that were closer together, they were in each other's houses all the freaking time, especially if they grew up together. It's like they're different families and everybody knows each other. And so like, they're either playing in the street together or they're doing stuff in each other's houses, like eating or playing a video game or listening to music or sleeping over or watching a
Mhm.
movie. So it's like, and they're not related. They're just friends that know each other and grew up together.
Mhm.
So um yeah, I mean, there's definitely lots of similarities as well between the people from here and the people from, at least in Panama, because I obviously didn't grow up in Peru, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, that's tangential. But I just, it reminded me of that, and I'm amused by those memories, fond memories. And okay, um, all right, I have more questions. Just give me a minute. So then when you gave the news to your parents that you wanted to study the art
Yeah.
in this Hartford place,
Yeah.
was there any kind of opposition, any kind of trepidation? And also, actually, why, if you were so familiar with the activity of making images, why do you think that you were still hesitant to kind of embrace the idea of doing it for a living? Yeah, so those two things.
Yeah, so I mean, those kind of go hand in hand. I was hesitant because of how you grow up, and then your family, not just your immediate family, but everyone else around that family circle. Like, like that whole idea of a starving artist. That's not a way of making a
Mm-hmm.
living. What career are you going to choose? Like, you need to choose a career that's going to make money, and the usual, BS. And so I was always hesitant because I wasn't sure uh if that's what I wanted to do. I didn't even know that you can actually make a career out of
Mm-hmm.
art. That you can sell your work or whatever. I knew that I had a talent. I knew that I had a connection to it, and I knew that I wanted to keep doing it, and I would do it no matter what. But I didn't think that it was a career then. My parents were very happy to support me no matter what. um their main goal was for me to get an education. No matter what that was, it didn't matter. As long as I went to college and got a degree of anything, I
Mm-hmm.
got an education, they were happy with that. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I said I'm going to University of Hartford, I'm going to pursue art, they were okay. So this is what you're going to do, and we're happy to support you as long as you're doing something, quote unquote, I guess, honorable, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you're not going to make us look bad in front of everyone else by,
sure.
not becoming the quote unquote loser that didn't go to school after high school and now you're doing God knows what.
Yeah, yeah.
So as long as I went to school, they were totally happy to support me, and they did. My mom has always been my huge supporter, and she was always buying me brushes, paints, and things to just keep me busy. And I'm forever grateful that she did that, that she
Did
never said
did
no to
did
that.
she keep supplying materials while you were at Hartford?
Yeah,
Nice.
for the first year, yes, definitely, because that uh the school does not supply that stuff for you.
Sure.
But up until a certain point, she did supply, that first year, and then I started working and I was buying my own stuff, and then also the University of Hartford did provide, not the University of Hartford, but Hartford Art School itself did have a program for students who felt like they needed cash. They had gift certificates that they would just write out to the local art
Mm.
supply store, and you can just go and get your supplies as long as it was for the process of art making for your classes.
For the
So that
school,
got
yeah.
me through. Yeah, so that's what got me through during those 4 years, and I took advantage of that. Um and so I never had any opposition from my parents directly, but I did hear it later on that they got it from other family members,
Mm. The
and
supplies,
that
the art supplies?
no, that I was allowed to pursue art and go to school. That they heard it from other family members saying, like, are you crazy? Like, he's gonna
Ah,
starve to
okay.
death.
Hmm.
you know, like, why is he doing this? Like, why is he going to art school? You should not allow this or whatever. Like, there was this sort of thing that I would not live a fruitful life, I guess. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but my
Yeah.
parents never really cared, especially my mom. My mom is one of those who like, I don't want to say likes to argue. She doesn't like to argue, but she has a very strong personality.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have an issue with her, she's like, that's not my business if you have an issue with me or not.
Yeah, yeah.
She was able to just kind of like, you know, kind of push them away.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Yes. Okay, so it seems like in the case of your parents, they were okay with you studying art simply because you were studying some college, whatever it was, as long as you went to college. Okay, I mean I think that's great. Um, and I'm amused by it being. You said it's other family members.
Other family members, yeah, like,
Yeah, because like, but yeah, I wonder. I wonder why is the negativity surrounding being an artist that is so prevalent. Because like when I wanted to study, my parents were not the ones that were trepidating. It was me. I was like, what am I going to do? I don't
yeah,
know what I'm going to do. I know nothing about the art business.
yeah.
I don't know really that much about making art itself.
Hmm.
I liked to draw and stuff, but then it's like, nothing about making a body of work, nothing about making a series, and then, going to a
Yeah.
gallery and then, selling contracts. I didn't know any of that.
That's a whole
Um,
other thing that
it's
also they don't teach you in school.
I mean,
Some schools.
the whole thing about art school is like a whole other subject.
Business side of art.
I have, the business side of art. I have a little blog on which I write sometimes, and I have an entry on the subject because if a person wants to know about the art business, then you should look for an art business school, or a school that teaches art business. Because, like, for example, I was looking for studying anatomy and drawing. It's like that's all I wanted.
Hmm.
The school had like lectures and stuff about the art business, but I can't say that I was or am interested in the subject. It's like, I mean, I have learned about it by like doing it, but it's like I still don't actually care much about learning the subject. Like, I know that it's important and that I should. It's
Yeah.
like everybody should know economics,
Yeah.
but I can't say that I'm interested in learning that stuff, Okay, so I would like you now to tell me, please, um, what is your favorite thing about? Okay, no, I'm not gonna ask it that way. I want you to like try to argue in favor of oil painting and argue against oil painting.
Oh boy.
Based on the things that you like or dislike, or like pros and cons of it.
Oil painting, God. Well, what am I gonna argue?
Because
Oh,
you said that you started painting with this oil painting with this lady in when you were in
in high
school
school, yeah.
still, and then it's like you were hooked and you
Yeah.
haven't stopped. So it's like your main medium, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think it was more, God, the way that I always compare oil painting to, and this is, I if I offend anyone, I'm sorry, but I always compare to sex. It is
Okay.
it is, I mean, there is friction, wetness, there is
Sure.
a lot of like, and
Different
it,
textures.
textures. There's a dance too that happens when you're painting, and that can happen with any other painting too. But with oil paint is like there's that slipperiness, and sometimes there's also a fight that goes between the paint and you. And like if you have a competitive nature, if you're obsessive, then you're like, no, you're not going to win over me. So different things take over when you're painting. Aside from like the smell, that I don't know why I'm into the smell of linseed oil from the very beginning, and I love that. I love the smell of gum turpentine. I love that to be in it. And so for me is more about the actual sensibilities, the actual like tactileness of it, and how also it's the luminosity of it. You can achieve so many different sorts of like brilliance with it depending on what techniques you're working with. um so for me, that is what's great about it. what is also against oil painting, I guess, it's like you're constantly, if you, and also this is depends on the person too, if you really care about the longevity of your work, and how it's going to age, it is a very fragile sort of medium, and like you have to constantly think about the type of oil that you're using. Is this going to be suitable with this pigment? Because certain pigments do react with certain oils in a certain way, and they can either discolor or it could cause more cracking. And then you're thinking about, am I painting on linen versus cotton canvas? Because how they absorb moisture from the air, and then that means that they're moving, that surface is moving as it's aging differently. So which one
Yeah,
is going
yeah.
to be better for this? Or am I painting on a wood panel? Then you have wood panels become more heavy the larger you start to get. And then so you have to think about all these technical things while you're making your work. And at a certain point, you have to say, like, what is more important, like for you to get kind of like obsessed about the materials and all of the little things, or do I just want to paint for the sake of just painting and the enjoyment of painting? So there's always that balance, I guess, that happens. I'm always uh thinking about the materials that I work with, and that's part, I became more of a material snob because
Mhm.
uh because of the job, my first job that I had here in New York. When I moved, I started working for Kremer Pigments, and working for Kremer Pigments forced me to do a lot of reading about conservation and materials. And
Mhm.
that was my life for a number of
Useful.
years. Very useful.
Mhm.
Excuse me, stuff that I didn't learn in school, I was learning now, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much that I did not know about painting. And I was experimenting with different mediums, different surfaces, different grounds. I was making my own grounds. Like for a while, it became this thing that I was obsessed about, the materials of painting and how I can honor and respect those materials through my painting. And
Mhm.
that's how, and yeah, and it's still something that still goes on to this day now. Yeah. So I
Okay.
guess these are my pros and cons.
Well, that's kind of funny because like the cons didn't sound like cons very much at all.
It's just this kind of like you're constantly like, oh, like,
It's
what am I?
no, no. I mean, that makes perfect sense. It's like if you have a strong bias in favor because you like the medium, it's like don't. I mean, I can't. I like drawing. It's like my medium is drawing,
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm aware that there are cons, but it's like they're not cons to me.
yeah,
It's like
and I
I don't
love
care about the
drawing.
cons, you know.
I love drawing too, and that's what I've been doing. I actually been doing a lot more drawing over the last few years than painting. Actually, it's funny. I just got back into oil painting very recently in the last couple of weeks. I finally finished a painting that I started 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, this canvas that is sitting next to me, I'm finally starting to work on it again. And this is something that's been laying around for almost 5 years. So for a while, painting started to, I hit a block with painting. And I wasn't sure of where I was going with it, or what I was doing, or if I had grown, or was I even growing. And so like I would start paintings. I have so many paintings that I started and I never finished. And so now I'm in the
Yes.
process of finishing work. But through that whole like confusion of painting, I picked up drawing, which is something that I wasn't really doing through college and after that. And I love the process of drawing, and now I'm getting into different drawing materials and then different papers. And again, the obsession starts with materials again, like, different materials of drawing. And that's where I'm at right now. So right now I'm now currently bouncing back and forth between drawing and painting.
Okay, lovely. I bet. I mean, I bet it's totally gonna like enrich your painting, probably. How? I don't
Um,
know, but I feel like it could.
I'm kind of seeing it a little bit the way that for example, yesterday, like the way that I was moving the brush and applying paint, I was no longer like afraid, because for some reason drawing liberated me a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now I'm taking that into my painting now, and
Nice.
also through drawing, over the last for a few years, I've been my images that I've been making, they're mostly from imagination
Mm-hmm.
or memory. So I'm starting to bring that, and that drawing has allowed me to do that. I wasn't able to do that with painting. I was scared about ruining a good piece of canvas, and then you're thinking about the dollar amount of the materials that you're putting to waste by making a shitty painting from memory.
Yeah.
So now drawing is allowing me to take those chances on the canvas directly and starting to play around with it all. And so yeah, it's definitely been very helpful.
Nice. Okay, good. Hooray for drawing. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Kalan, what is art in your opinion?
Oh God, that question. It changes depending on who you're talking to. Um, for me is it can be two-dimensional, three-dimensional, it can be, you know, but it has to be um honest. It has to be beautiful. And when I'm saying beauty depends on the person, but there has to be some sort of connection, spiritual connection between the viewer and that object. um there has to be a higher purpose, I guess, for it to exist. And every time that you go back to visit this artwork, you're always going to get the same sort of emotional response to it. So if it moves you, if it hits a chord with you very deep and you don't even know what that is, that to me would be art.
Mhm. Okay. Um, okay, so then when you're making your work, um, I mean, is that what you're doing? Is that what you're going for? What does it feel like you're doing when you're making a painting, like when you're working on a painting? You know, why,
Or
I mean, what are you doing and why is it art? I guess.
for me, for me is more, at least in terms of how I engage with my work, is more about my emotional connection to what I'm doing. So it depends on the shapes, color, or values, or materials themselves, and that whole combination, and the act of being in that moment, moving all these things around. And there's a something that happens that I get a high out of. So
Mhm.
therefore, I'm thinking like I'm connecting with this object now. And I believe that if you are experiencing that while making this, then it has to connect with someone else that sees it, and they,
Mhm.
I guess, can pick that up from the object because you've put it in it. Um, and so the work that I do is mainly for myself. Even though yes, it's online and I show it and I share it.
And you
Um,
sell it,
and I sell it from time to time.
right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. But the thing that I do is not to, to follow any sort of fads, or to like follow anyone else's advice, or say if someone so and so is doing this, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm not doing that. I'm just like doing what pleases me.
Mhm.
And that's basically it. It's just my connection to it. And it's just my little moment. When I'm in the studio, it's just like me and this little room, and what can I create, and whatever happens happens. And that to me is, yeah, that's basically the basis of my work.
Mhm. What does it mean to connect with the work when you're making it? What does that mean?
In what way? What do you mean by that? Like,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, why did you use that word? What does it feel like when you're connecting with the work?
well, it's like for me is like an escape, right?
Uh-huh.
um it's a way for me to like live in a different world in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's peace, there is safety, and those are all the things that I experience while in the process of making my work, whether if it's like working on a sketchbook, or working on a larger drawing, or one of my monotypes, or a painting. Like it's the safety, the peace, the also the excitement of creating something and and seeing something kind of come alive when
Mm-hmm.
something didn't exist there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's what that means to me. It's those things. It's basically I can be the most vulnerable, and it's okay for me to be that way because it's just my work is not judging me. It's or I can just, be who I am without thinking of other outside sources,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
having a hand at it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, yes. I mean, I guess I asked specifically about the connection part, not because I don't understand, because I do, but I guess I just wonder either way what that means because, I mean, I guess I was wondering either way, like what you meant by it, I guess.
Yeah.
Because again, I do understand. I mean, it's like when I'm making my drawings, like, I kind of consider myself the first owner of the drawing.
Yeah.
Um, and so the drawing at first is for me in a way, even though I like other
Yeah.
people looking at the work and I'm
Mhm.
excited to show it to people and I'm excited to sell the thing and all this stuff. But I have to I mean, I don't have to like it. I want to like it first.
Yeah.
Before showing it and trying to sell it and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
then it's like while I'm making it, so I guess there's overlap with what you're saying because the process by which the drawing starts to appear on the paper is very enjoyable.
It's
And then
exciting. It's
yeah, it's
very
exciting.
exciting.
It's exciting and it's like scary in a way because it's like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
hope I don't fuck it up or something. And then it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, so it's like there's I guess that like the competition, like the fight that you were talking about earlier
Yeah.
as one of the cons with in painting, that it's like, if a part of the drawing is difficult, it's like, all right, I mean, I'm gonna find this part and I'm gonna do it and it's gonna look good. And it's like, it's like I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
I'm gonna subdue the drawing.
Yeah.
And then as it's turning out really good, and I like how it looks a lot. It's like I will often just like stop and look at it and kind of just really
Hmm.
enjoy looking at it and be like, wow, you are just so beautiful,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
have this whole feeling of, my God, you are just amazing. And it's like, in a way, it sounds like I'm throwing flowers at myself because
No,
I
but
drew the thing, but at the same time, it kind of doesn't feel like I did in a way,
yeah,
so like
exactly.
yeah, what do you think about that?
I mean, sometimes I do look at some of my drawings or whatever, the things that I do, and I'm like, wow, I did that. I did that. And then
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes I start another drawing or painting or whatever, and I'm like, can I replicate this again? And no, you can't, but you can come close to it. But the fact is that it's the same person making it, so there's going to be a connection, right?
right,
No matter what. But it's the same thing with me. Is like there's this moments when you find like, wow, this is beautiful, and then
yeah,
there's a thing that goes, oh shit, don't fuck it up, don't mess it
yeah,
up,
yeah,
because if you go too far, then you're gonna mess this beauty, and then it's gonna be a mess. Maybe that's the reason why I've left so many unfinished paintings, is because I get to a point where I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm gonna mess this up,
yeah,
so I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
stop.
I'm gonna
But
break it.
that's yeah. So in a way, it's kind of good to actually go back to them later on when you're a little more sure of yourself, and you're like, let's finish this. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel more sure now about this. And I think that's also the beauty of art, that it takes time.
Hmm.
It takes time to develop, to basically grow. And unfortunately, we live in a world that doesn't allow that anymore. Like, people are constantly like wanting you to pump out images,
Hmm.
and it doesn't work like that. Like,
Hmm.
you need time to live with it, and to see it grow. And it's I call them my babies. They're
Yeah.
basically like children, right?
Hmm.
And you see them from the beginning to end, and you're part of that growth. And
Hmm.
it's tough to see them go
Yes,
when
when they go
you do
home.
sell. Yeah, when you sell the work, it's so hard to like box them up, and then you just send them off, and you're like, I hope nothing ever happens to you, and I hope that somebody will take care of you forever.
Yes,
And
yes.
I wish that I can see you again in some point where I'm old, and see how we both aged.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Think of them that way too.
Yes, yes. Yeah, when my drawings, when somebody purchases my drawings, I'd rather think of them as going home. And what happens to me is that I miss them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can look on Instagram and like look at the whatever, but it's like I miss seeing them in person and like I miss their company.
Their presence, yeah, their
Sometimes,
physical
yeah,
presence,
yeah,
yeah.
their presence. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Um, okay.
I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, because it's like I mean, I kind of I like even though a lot of times I don't know the buyer in person, like I haven't known them for long or anything and we're not friends or anything, I kind of like trust the person in the sense that they want the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
They want the drawing in their company. They want the
Yeah.
company of the drawing for themselves, which is good enough reason, I guess, for me to trust them.
Yeah.
But then I'm missing their company because
Mm-hmm.
they're obviously they're not here with me anymore. So then I miss them.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Um. Yes. So I want to try to remember what you said art is. So because I mean, were the thoughts that you were saying about art what it is? I mean, I asked what it is in your opinion, but would you say that is what art is like while you're making it, or what about what is art to a viewer who is maybe not an artist
Yeah.
that is looking at
Well,
one of
yeah,
your paintings? What is art in that case?
it's like if you're making a connection to the work, whether if it's, whether if it's like really emotional or you just happen to like the aesthetics of it or whatever, it's then it's art, right? It's an object that somebody is idolizing.
Mm-hmm.
Some It's an object that means that it will get taken care of, or that's what art is. It's like it's sparking something in the viewer, whatever that sort of emotion is. That is art. um but it has to be, for me, it has to be like a deeper connection, right, between that viewer and that object to for it to be
Uh-huh.
considered art. If
Well,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah, because it can't just be grabbing the person's attention, and it can't just be, it has to be something more than
yeah,
that,
and
because anything can call your attention,
it
basically.
has to be like, it has to last for a while. Like, so that's what I was saying. If like a person comes back to it a week, a month, years, they'll still have that feeling and that connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, that is the power of art. If it
Mm-hmm.
moves you and it has the power to keep moving you continuously, doesn't matter the time that it was created, whether if it's, we're talking Renaissance, 17th century, or abstract expressionist painting, doesn't matter its time frame in history, but if it has that power to like get a hold of you for so long, then that is art.
Why do you think art has that capacity to why do you think art has the capacity to do that, of conjuring those, you know con- why does art have the capacity to demand the attention of the viewer, the artist or the viewer,
Yeah.
throughout time? And why do you think that then the work of art can kind of conjure these feelings of, whatever they may be, in the viewer consistently throughout time?
Yeah, I think it starts with like humans have always been attracted to this idea of beauty, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the Greeks definitely or after beauty with sculpture, and then that changes, what beauty is can change a little bit with culture, from culture to culture.
Sure.
But the fact that a person is making this, and like I was saying earlier, like whatever it is that your emotions are and whatever it is that you're feeling at that moment of creation, I think that some of that goes into that work. It's kind of like it's a little bit mystical, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't really scientifically put your hand on why a certain piece of art can, enchant people for so
Mm-hmm.
long. um there's that, there's something about, it's a little bit of magic, I guess,
Sure.
that we just can't really measure it, but we know it exists because we all experience it when we encounter something that we go, wow, this is beautiful. And it's not just like beautiful because it's, like idealized. It could be anything, like you're connecting with whatever it is that you're connecting. Yeah. So there's something about it that magic exists within art, and there's no way of really measuring out what that is or putting your hand on it. But I think it exists, and the fact that, like I said, a person, a human, was able to create this magic, that is the whole like beauty aspect of it, I guess.
I think it could be measurable or at least named, except that we don't like to study, humans. We don't like to study stuff that's too woo, like that. I think I read a quote supposedly by Tesla. I mean, I didn't go looking for a corroboration to see if he actually said it. But the quote said something about how if we started studying those things that can't be measured with numbers, then we would make leaps and bounds in just advancement in general of humanity, because we tend to be, again, humans, so all of us.
Yeah.
We tend to be very, like, we tend to favor things that seem logical to us rather than kind of appreciating the presence of both, logic and emotion, and appreciating that and appreciating the fact that they're both necessary and they complement each other and this type of stuff. So like we tend to be like, oh yeah, rationality and I mean, not that there's anything wrong with rationality or logic. Obviously, I'm just saying that we get fixated on the one and completely neglect the other one to the point that like, oh my God, feelings, we associating feeling with weakness, or, crying with weakness, or,
Yeah.
or being, feeling love and being vulnerable, this type of stuff with weakness. And I think that's not helpful. I don't think it's helpful to, maybe it's not helpful actually to our own careers, like to art. Because for example, I definitely feel like that type of stuff to some extent has interfered with my own capacity to sell my work, or believe enough in the work in order to sell it. Like how you believe in the product and then you sell the product. So like it definitely interferes. I have the hypothesis that it interferes with that. So that's actually in part why I started the podcast, because I was like, I mean, I really don't know what art is, and I really
Yeah.
don't know what beauty is, or why I think my work is beautiful.
And you're going to get so many different answers to that question too.
Yeah,
Like,
sure. Yeah, of course. I mean,
like,
absolutely. And I mean, it's obviously not a problem of just me, because we are obviously very confused about what both art and beauty are. And that is I think that is a symptom of a pretty big, just worldwide, world cultural problem.
yeah.
That, we, we think that art is a joke, anything can be art. And there's no such thing as beauty. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There's no definition, like this type of stuff. And I think that's a problem. Okay, enough of my ranting. What is
Those are
beauty?
like, yeah, those are like, that's what happens right now in the art world, is like what you said, anything can be called art. And you're
Right.
like, but not really.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's like modernist or postmodernist, one of the two, that kind of, they started this idea, and it's like, I was, when I was younger, I was like, I mean, I guess. But then recently I started slowly giving myself permission, by listening to other people talk about the subject, that it's like, no, I don't have to accept certain things as art that
Yeah.
want to like really usurp the name of art.
Yeah.
And like belittle the name of art. Okay, so we don't have that much time left, and I want Mr. Colan for you to tell me now, what is beauty in your opinion?
Beauty. Okay. That is another um hard one to because we all can find different things beautiful.
Sure.
If I'm looking at specifically at painting or drawing, I'm looking at surface, I'm looking at color, I'm looking at, I don't want to say the technical aspects, because you can be a very technically adept artist, and there's still no emotion in that
Sure.
art, right?
Sometimes there
Um,
is, though.
Sometimes there is, but for me, beauty, there's a balance of, it's hard for me to say. It's just something that if I see it, I connect with it, and I go, and it makes me gasp. And if it's something that I go, God damn, I wish I could do that. Then for me is to me that's beauty. To me, that's beautiful. It's been able to stop me on my tracks, make me gasp, make me just feel better about myself. If it's made me think about something, like if it sparked something in me, to me that is beautiful. That is beauty. There's, there's a balance there.
A
Something that
balance between what and what, what and what.
Oh, I mean, I'm a balance. When I was saying, when I said balance, I'm sorry, I'm talking about like balance of like shapes, forms, and
Yeah.
talking about more formal elements about constructing a painting, or an artwork, but there's so much to it, I guess. So there's like about the surface, the materials, the if it's representational artwork, then is there subject matter? But subject matter to me really doesn't matter as much. To me is the actual physicality of the artwork itself. I
Wait,
don't
what
know.
was that last part? What doesn't matter as much as the.
To me,
Sorry.
like to me, reading the subject matter or knowing the subject matter about a work is not as important as the actual physical object that I'm
Uh-huh.
connecting. I think a lot of people need the storyline. They need to know the story before they can say, "Oh yes, this is amazing," or "This is beautiful. I get it." They need to read about it first before they connect with it. And to me, is the actual opposite. Like
Mm.
when I go to museums, I hate reading anything that's on the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't. And I also hate the whole like earphone situation where people are just
Yeah,
listening and they're just
that's pretty
listening.
funny.
The art that they're listening about is over here, but they're walking away just listening. So I don't do any of that. I connect with what's in front of me.
Mm.
And if it's moving me, if it's shaking me, if it somehow just um forces me to just stare at it for long periods of time, then yeah, that's beautiful. But I guess it's a deep connection.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
It all
mhm,
goes back to like that, connection and emotion.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's funny about the people, the earphone thing. I mean, I still think, I mean, I agree with you, but I still think that's better than when somebody just takes a picture and then walks away with the phone. I think that's like the worst thing you can do. It's like you're not in the museum when you're doing that. You're not looking at art when you're
People
doing that.
just want to say, "Oh, I went to the museum, therefore I got education," or I
Yeah,
got
and like here's
research,
the picture,
and
here's
here's
the
the proof that
evidence.
I did
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
I don't like that at all.
so if I take the phone away, what can you tell me about that picture? What can you tell me about that painting that you just
Yeah.
saw? I don't know. Here it is, the phone, and
It
it's like,
had colors. Yeah, I liked a lot what you said about the physical presence of the work. The materials, the canvas, the painting, this type of stuff.
it's a
And then
mixture of all that comes together.
yeah, the yes, yes, yeah,
Create this.
the composition, the colors, the paint itself.
It goes
Be
back to what I was saying earlier. Like, there's this mystic thing that goes into this magic, right? And it just
Somehow,
bewitches
yes.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the Frick Madison recently because
Okay.
they're doing something to the Frick itself. So
Yeah.
it's at the Breuer, I think it's a Breuer in
Mhm.
Fifth Avenue,
Yeah.
Madison. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't remember. The thing is that I
Hmm.
went there and I also don't remember who painted the paintings that I'm talking about, but there were these gigantic paintings of these people wearing amazing, lavish clothes. And, you know, what you were saying, like the physical, like even the building itself, because like the presentation, like the space they were in, how they were spaced out, and
Hmm.
then the painting it, because it's like obviously, they're spaced out because they need their space for you to look at them and
Yeah.
appreciate them, right? That outward presentation that goes beyond the canvas itself,
Hmm.
you know, that was also amazing. I mean, it was also part of the whole thing. And then like the paintings themselves were just gigantic. They were like wall-sized paintings
Hmm.
of these society people. I don't know who they were, and I don't
Yeah.
remember who painted them. But then it's like then going on to the painting itself and like the technique, the technical ability of the artist, because the artist painted these unbelievable dresses of the people. And it's like I'm thinking of the embroidery,
Are
like the
you talking about the
gold.
Velasquez?
Huh?
Are
It's
you
no,
talking about the Velasquez?
no,
The
no, no.
red one? Okay.
No, it was some other European guy.
Mm-hmm.
Some Dutch, I don't remember who it was,
Yeah.
whatever. But it's like, just painting these clothes and like the facial expression and like the gesture of the body of the person standing there and the background of the painting and just like the size and the fact that they painted that gigantic
Yeah.
thing, And I mean, I definitely agree that technical ability does not guarantee a beautiful painting, but sometimes it fucking does.
It does. But
Sometimes
like,
it depends on the observational skill of the artist as well.
to go back to what you were saying about whatever painting it is that you were talking about, I can totally like, yeah, like there are so many paintings right now that are going through my head. But if you were to zoom in about 2 inch little square or even a 3 inch square into that canvas, to that section that you're talking about, and just like block everything else there, so now you don't see a subject, now you don't see anything, you're just looking at paint for paint's sake. Like, just the fact that they were just taking blobs and they were doing this basically sort of movement with the paint, and here it is, this magical moment just happened. And that's what I'm talking about, because now you have some people that are modeling and trying to render the same object, but this person was able to just grab a brush and go bloop bloop bloop, and here you are, here
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this embroidery, here's this dress, here is this whatever it is that you're talking about. The background, some of those landscapes are just the sketchiest things
They are,
ever,
yeah.
but then when you look at it as a whole, like they all come together, and it's
Yes.
that's that magic.
It is, it is. It's like a symphony of stuff that
Mm-hmm.
just together, like you said, like as a whole, like all of those elements working together in synchronicity is like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's amazing to look at. Okay. Well, Mr. Colan, we have reached the 55-minute mark of this conversation, so I'm going to start to close it out. Why don't you tell our future listeners and viewers what are you working on lately, where your work can be found? You want to add anything? Is there any project that you're excited about that you want to talk about?
Well, currently not showing any work. I do have an exhibition coming up as a group exhibition in Rhode Island with a few members of the Salmagundi Club. It's a monotype exhibition, and we'll be showing either monotypes or ghost prints that have been reworked, which is what I think I'm going to be showing. I'm showing my ghost prints drawings. So that's happening in August, September, later this summer in Rhode Island. So I'll be announcing that on Instagram later on as we get closer. But for the moment, you can just see my work online. It's my website, luiscolanart.com, or my Instagram account as well with the same name, luiscolanart.com. And at the moment, I'm just getting back into painting and trying to rediscover myself as a painter after a long break just drawing. And I'm now going to find the balance between the two.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Okay. All right. So, well, thank you everyone for watching and listening. Special thanks to you, Luis, my guest, for agreeing to talk to me today and for your time. If you'd like to support Lucas, my podcast, myself, or all three, all corresponding links will be in the caption. Make sure you like this video and leave a comment so we know that you were here with us. And remember to subscribe to my audiovisual channel. So thank you everyone for watching and listening, and bye very much. Bye. Thank you.